Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I'm back again for another very shortish video. Firstly, thanks very much for you guys giving feedback and messaging me about what you'd like to see. Can I do a video about this? Now the first thing is, I'm afraid I don't do review videos. I don't have the skill. I watch a lot of review videos, but I'm not going to do them, I'm afraid. So thanks for you guys for requesting them. What I would say is though, there are some guys that are really, really good at reviews, and they don't have to, how can I put it, spend a huge amount of time and effort in video editing, etc. to make a very good video review, because what their version and their opinions are very, very valid. So there are some very diverse ways of doing reviews as well. So if you guys are interested in review videos, check out Neny Dee. I think he's really, really good for reviews. His style is much different to Theclipper King, and I think you guys know that. Check out his reviews. Neny Dee is fantastic at video editing, comes across really well. Check out his review videos and his channel. And also a new guy called Continuum. I checked this out after Neny shared his link, and I thought very professional. Great editing. I think he's a professional videographer or producer, and very, very well done. So check out those guys if you're looking at for reviews. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I've learnt certain ways to minimize customs checking any packages that are sent out. Now, barring someone who works at customs and telling them exactly what they do, which I'd love to watch if they do that, by the way. I'll tell you some of the tips that I've picked up over the few years that I've been sending stuff and picking stuff up via eBay. Now, this probably may not apply to people who are just casually selling on eBay, but the reason why I'm saying some of these tips is that if you're the one receiving a package, I received a package, it took a long time because it was delayed at customs. Now, I don't blame the seller for doing that, because it's not his responsibility really, surely, you know, it's customs. But it just felt that I didn't really want to deal with that guy again, because he might have the same problem. There were certain things that he did on the box that I think, you know what, customs would probably check that out. So this is even for the casual eBayer, who I hope to do that, who would apply these little tips. The reason being is that it's a community. If a few people start doing this, hopefully other people will start doing it. So there's less problems, less tension. People have more pleasurable experiences in buying and selling, trading figures, etc. Okay, so let me go back a step. How did I start to find out about this? When I was 18, I worked for my summer job for 3 months, 4 months. So this was about 20 years ago when I was 18. I worked at Heathrow Airport in the UK, in the freight department. So what I did there was really, really simple, basic stuff. I literally moved boxes from one area to another in the warehouse. Now, customs excise are probably, by the way, this only applies to kind of UK customs, because I don't have a clue about Hong Kong or US, so this is only applicable mainly for UK customs. If you guys work for Heathrow and customs, correct me if I'm wrong, please, because this is information maybe 20 years old. So what did I do? I literally moved boxes from one side to the other. Customs are probably the most powerful people in terms of authority. They have more power than the police. They can open packages and even enter your property, your house, your car, without even a warrant. All they need is suspicion. So it's a very subjective role in some respects, but they're very, very powerful people. So number one, don't piss them off. Secondly, really respect what they're doing, because they're keeping out things that shouldn't be in the country maybe. So, you know, don't hate on these guys, it's their job. So when I was working in the freight department, this is essentially what happened. A flight comes in and it's put on what we call a tug, which is like a big long train, like a mini train with lots of little carriages, and this is where all the boxes come in. So we have the clients who use that facility were people like FedEx, UPS, DHL, TNT, all these sort of logistical companies that have their packages sent over. Now, when they receive it, they cannot touch it because it's still deemed as international soil. So there's part of the warehouse that's international soil. It's got to be physically moved to another part of the warehouse and logged onto the system as received in the UK. This is where, you know, the tracking, and that's where it gets updated. So they came in, we put them on what are called barrows, which are like big trolleys like you get from IKEA, that sort of thing. Those tugs, by the way, are bloody dangerous because for health and safety, they had a sliding door that you meant to always close when you're driving it. So, but people are quite lazy. So when you're driving it, you sometimes don't close the door and you put your hand here whilst you're driving it, and the door will shoot forward if you brake. And we've had instances where people's fingers were broken. One guy had his whole finger cut off. So, dangerous job, mate, working in warehouses. I think Clipper knows about that, driving forklifts and stuff like that. Anyway, so you, the tug comes in, you take all the boxes off, put them on the barrows, and these barrows are moved across to another side of the warehouse. Now, in this area of the warehouse, the logistics agents, FedEx, DHL, TNT, whoever they are, they can't touch them. They can just check that what we put on the barrows is their packages to go out. So they'll check that all the labels are there, etc. They can't touch them because customs have to clear it first, do the paperwork, then it's deemed to be on UK soil. So what customs excise did was that they'll go through some of these barrows, some of these trolleys. Now, they'll generally glance them over and see if anything jumps out. Some of them comes out of the ordinary. So you have to almost understand what draws their attention to certain packages or not. So when I was working there, I'm quite friendly and I like to chat to most people. So I asked them, so, you know, how did you determine if you'd stop this one or this one? Those guys, I didn't have any motive behind that. I was just generally curious. I was 18. I didn't know much. I was, you know, at uni sort of thing. So these guys were saying, well, if something is a little bit unusual, we'll check it out. They'd also bring sniffer dogs to certain flights as well. Every Miami flight that came in, they had the sniffer dogs through them for drugs. So they would run sniffer dogs through some of the trolleys at times as well, some of the barrows at times. So this guy told me some tips that I've realised that I think you guys should be aware of that might help you in the speeding up the process and reducing the time at customs, or if there's any delays at customs. I've written down these notes because there's quite a few of them. So the first thing to minimise the customs delays or potential for inspection is that make sure you complete the paperwork. Simple as that. When they have the paperwork, if you're doing speed post or EMS or sort of 8-day air postage, make sure it's complete. So let me just show you very quickly. I actually do two types of labels. The first label is the usual EMS speed post. Make sure that's complete. I put a second label on here as well, which is actually an additional label for the address and the return to sender. The reason for that is that this could potentially get a little bit damaged or wet or marked, and you can't see it absolutely clearly, which causes a little bit of concern for customs because they can't make a judgment call, or even for parcel force. So I do another one here and I put sellotape over the top of that label just to make sure that it doesn't get damaged or ripped or marked, so they can still see the address. Make sure the customs declaration on there as well. If you mark a gift, mark a gift. If you want to put down anything else, there's commercial sample which you can use as well, and the values as well. So that's how I use it, and I use this type of box for single figures. And which is the next point. I use plain boxes. There is a cardboard box company about 5 minutes from me. These guys literally make cardboard boxes, and I use them because they're plain. They can put logos on them, but I just wanted plain, unusual, sorry, not boxes that stand out, for a couple of reasons. Number one, if there are logos on them, it could be a little bit suspicious about what you're importing into their country. Now, drugs is a major thing. On top of that, certain high-ticket items. I think if any of you guys have had shipments overseas and it says Hot Toys, customs kind of have an idea that, you know what, this is an expensive value. Let's have a look at the paperwork. What have they declared? So that's why I like to use plain boxes. It blends in, it doesn't stand out. Next thing is smell. If the box smells of food, strong fragrances, that's going to spark off the sniffer dogs. So that's going to draw attention to it. So try to use boxes that don't have any smells at all. The other thing, sorry, I forgot to say about plain boxes, try not to use anything food related, whether it's pet food, fruit, chicken, meat. Customs hate that because it means that they may have to open it to check if any bits of food have been brought into the country. So avoid using boxes that have food labels on the outside that may draw attention to itself. Okay? So the next thing is I vary the info that I put on there. I send out quite a lot of figures to people over in the UK and the US. Now sometimes I might send 4 or 5 packages in one go. So it looks a little bit suspicious if all of these are gifts to people from the same sender from Hong Kong. So what I do is I vary my English name with my Chinese name, with my office address, with my home address, maybe even with my wife's name, so that it doesn't look like it's all coming from one person. It just means that you're not really taking the piss by saying, yeah, I'm sending out all these gifts, they're 10 items, they're all gifts at the same time. It just looks, you know, looks like you are taking the piss. Which actually moves on to the next one, taking the piss. If you're sending out a box like that one I showed you, which is for one figure, I generally put on a value of around 15 to 20 pounds, maybe $10, $15, something along those lines, because it's a realistic cost on that size box. If it's a slightly bigger box, if it's 2 figures, I'll maybe put on 20 to 30 pounds, because generally that's a realistic figure, realistic cost on something that size. If it's a large box, and it's, you know, pretty large, like, you know, this size, don't put down it's worth a tenner or $15, because customs going to actually query that in terms of value then. So for an example, I sent a Batman tumbler to someone. I said, look, I'm going to put down £80 as the value, because something that size, I think £80 is fair value. He said, no, just put down a tenner. I thought, no, that's just taking the piss, mate. I don't think that would work very well, and it's more likely to be opened because of that. So these guys aren't stupid. They know that the size of something is going to cost a little bit more than $10, $15. So, also, just 2 other things about customs. If they think a whole trolley is going to be inspected, it purely could be bad luck. They picked your item. You may have done all of these things and even more, but they choose your item. So this is not a guaranteed way of getting packages through. It just reduces the chances of them opening and inspecting them or delaying it at customs. Now, other things could be they may not like the look of your name. They just don't like the look of the box itself. They may not like the address it's being sent to. Anything that they think they want to open, they can do. I've had occasions where customs actually opened it, seen the Hot Toys figure itself, not queried the value, typed it back up, sent it over to the collector. Now I was a little bit nervous, thinking, Christ, they opened it, they're going to put a tax charge on it. They didn't, because they don't always look at the value. Sometimes they just want to verify that if you put it's a toy inside. If you put down that it's a toy and it turns out to be a set of 10 knives, or turns out to be something which is dangerous, they may check it for that. So just because they find it's a hot toy doesn't necessarily mean that they'll put a tax charge on it. It's the reason behind why they're opening the package makes a difference there. So that's pretty much all I wanted to tell you about what I know. I don't think all the information is 100% correct, but it's what I knew maybe sort of 20 years ago, 18 years ago. So hopefully you guys have found it useful. If you can use these tips, please use them, because the more I think the community uses it, it means that everyone has a better experience of sending and receiving figures through the post, or any types of package anyway. So anyway guys, check out the reviews of people below. Thanks for watching, and look forward to your comments. Take care guys.